On this day, Wednesday, September 11th, 2013, at 10:33 a.m., a meeting of the Committee on Administration of the Board of Commissioners of the Chicago Park District is being held in the 8th floor boardroom of the Administration Building located at 541 North Fairbanks. Will the Secretary please take a roll call?
Vice Chair Commissioner Lavelle.
Here.
President Robert.
Here.
Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Koldyke.
Here.
Quorum is present. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Shalaby, Commissioner Salgado, General Superintendent Michael Kelly, and General Counsel David Donnersberger are also in attendance.
This meeting shall please come to order. Item number 1 from the Acting Director of Green Initiatives, authorization to enter into a contract for district-wide abatement service. Good morning.
Good morning, Superintendent Kelly, President Traubert, Commissioners. I am Kathy Breitenbach, the Acting Director of Green Initiatives. It's recommended that the General Superintendent and CEO or his designee enter into a contract with EnviroPlus, Inc. for district-wide abatement, mitigation, and remediation services for asbestos, lead paint, mold, animal excrement, and carcass removal as needed at Chicago Park District facilities. Contractor was selected pursuant to a publicly advertised request for proposals. No work may commence and no payment shall be made to vendor prior to execution of a written agreement. So EnviroPlus, as you saw, was selected pursuant to an RFP. We had 3 responses to the request for proposals that went out on August 7th. This contract is routine work that we regularly perform with regular maintenance and construction. So it's a work order basis. There is a not to exceed limit of $600,000, but we have never actually hit that limit. It's done, as I mentioned, on a work order basis. To give you some context, over the last several years, it has ranged from $300,000 to $467,000 in terms of the amount of work we do each year under this contract. It's something we do just to maintain a safe environment throughout the Park District. Mm-hmm. All 3 responses were found to be responsive. The evaluation committee scored them based on 6 categories, including experience, their implementation plan, personnel, capacity to perform, safety, and cost. EnviroPlus scored the best in all of these categories. They did have the lowest cost proposal in addition to being the highest score in all the other categories. They are an MBE. They have a proven track record of completing this type of work for the Park District safely and efficiently. And if you have any questions about the work, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are they a Chicago-based firm?
I believe they are.
They're not. They're in Skokie.
They are in Skokie. Sorry.
Okay. Are there other questions or concerns?
You said they're an MBE firm. Could you just tell a little bit about that?
Sure. They are a minority-owned firm. The majority interests are listed, Salvador Garcia and Mirjana Garcia. They've committed to achieving 95% MBE and 5% WBE.
So moved. Second.
Will the Secretary take a roll call for the adoption of this matter?
Yes, and let the record reflect that Commissioner Allen has joined the meeting. Vice Chair Commissioner Lavelle.
Aye.
President Robert.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Koldyke.
Aye.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 2 from the Director of Revenue, authorization to enter into contracts for management and operation of outdoor ice rinks.
Good morning, Commissioners. Superintendent Kelly. It is recommended that an order be entered authorizing the General Superintendent or his designee to enter into a contract with Rink Management Services Corporation to provide management and operations of outdoor ice rinks. This contractor was selected pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid. No work may commence, and no payment shall be made prior to execution of a written agreement. Rink Management Services Corporation is the industry leader in ice rink management. This vendor's projected operation cost came in more than $100,000 less than its competitor. The recommended vendor has also had an extensive marketing plan that included diverse activities such as broomball and sled hockey. Recommended vendor also proposed to plan to sell advertisement to be displayed on hockey boards. The proposed vendor is willing to provide up to 300 pairs of ice skates at no cost to accommodate more skaters than Chicago Park District rinks. Any questions?
Is this the incumbent?
This is not the incumbent.
Did the incumbent bid?
The incumbent did bid. Again, the overall cost, both management fee and operation fee combined, this vendor, proposed vendor, came in $103,000 less.
And when you make the statement that they are the industry leader, what does that mean?
So the industry leader means that they manage more than 26 rinks nationwide. Some here in Illinois, as far south as Texas, and mostly I'm on the East Coast.
Just so I'm clear, they came in at 188,000, and the next guy was 298,000.
No, sir. They came in at $103,000 less overall between both the management and operations cost.
Okay, so
So the number that you're looking at, the 198, is just the management fee. That is the cost that we would be paying to this organization. That's the true cost to the park district. It goes directly to them.
And we pay the management fee.
Correct.
So where's the rest of the contract then? Where's the rest of the? I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Okay.
They came in $100,000 less. What are you talking about?
Okay. So when we looked at the IFB talked about both list management fee and projected costs for operations. When you looked at the projected costs for the operation end of it, this particular firm came in $103,000 less than the predecessor.
And what was it? 103 less against what base?
Okay, I'm sorry. So when you look at the maintenance fees, and I'll break it down and go through maintenance and operations. From a maintenance standpoint, the predecessor was $88,800 for the management fee. When you look at the management fee for this company, it was $198,000. If you look at the operational costs for this company, $1.3 million. For the former company was $1.6 million. So if you look at the total cost and put them both together, there's a difference of $103,000.
Okay, so the management fee is substantially higher.
Correct.
But they believe they're going to bring operating savings and more efficient expense controls
Correct.
by virtue of $300,000.
Correct.
And have you vetted that delta?
So we have looked at that, and also the other thing to kind of talk about, they also came to the table with other cost or revenue generating ideas, such as sponsorships, such as advertising with board sales, and an opportunity, as we talked about, being able to provide additional amenities that potentially could be a cost saving to the Chicago Park District.
And
I'm sorry, Larry.
are you netting those additional revenues against these numbers, or are they not included here?
We are looking at those. We're still looking at those numbers.
It's one thing I want to be clear on. Outdoor ice rinks are, from a revenue standpoint, are a losing proposition.
I get
They're very expensive, and really mitigating your operating expenses is the best strategy in operating expense.
I'm just trying to get
outdoor
apples to
rinks.
apples. Are you taking the enhanced revenue projections and reducing the operating expenses to get to that 1.3?
Correct.
You are.
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
it's really not apples to apples because whoever the 1.6 is doesn't have those revenues in there.
You know what? Let me let our chief financial officer step up.
So, Commissioner, to answer your question, right now we are looking at just operating expenses and management fees only. We have not taken into account any potential revenue sources
Great.
that would come into play. So we are comparing an apples-to-apples scenario.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Steve, as long as you know. So my question is, the management fee is an absolute no number, and we can compare management fees.
Correct.
The operating expenses this new company, not the company, projects that they will spend less money operating these things. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we have then chosen them on the basis of that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is any of that guaranteed?
No, not at this point. In our contract, it is not guaranteed. Similar to all our other privatized assets that we have, whether it's Soldier Field, whether it's our golf courses, we work with the vendor and establish an operating budget. We meet with them monthly. We go through our operations. We look at our expenses. Anything that would go over that budget, they would have to come to us and ask for approval to spend the monies associated with that. In their proposal, they provided us with a detailed budget of the expenditures that they anticipated to be incurred. Once again, they are a leader in the ice rink industry, and so therefore, I think they are comfortable with their assessment of what it will cost to operate the ice rinks.
But the incumbent has a knowledge base to say, I know this is what it will cost me to do. And the bidder, the successful bidder, is projecting. So how do we create a level of accountability so that, because we're awarding this on the basis of what they project versus what the incumbent seems to have a knowledge base to inform them about, how do we make sure that we get what we paid for?
So that accountability happens with these monthly meetings, going over the financial results, looking at what is the other costs associated with what they think in the future might occur, and basically managing to that budget that they provided.
And they're managing how many ice rinks again, I'm sorry?
26.
Total of 26 nationwide.
And how many does the incumbent manage?
Incumbent currently was managing 8 as of last year.
Thanks.
Do we know 8 and 26 don't sound like, how many ice rinks are?
That's a good question, because we asked that question too as part of the proposal process, and rink management is the leader at 26.
Okay. All right.
Steve, again, I'm just same thing that Commissioner Lavelle asked, but it seems to me so you can make a bid where you actually are going to get more guaranteed money, like on the management fee, and then project this operating thing. And what happens if we select them on that basis, and we're in the midst of this thing, and we were going to save all this money on operating, but as we go forward, we're not saving anything on operating, and we've given them a contract. What's our recourse?
Well, once again, the recourse would then be is look at their operating budget and identify ways that we can cut. Some of the operating budget expenses that might come up could be from emergencies or things that are out of control. Similar with any of our vendors that we have, whether it's the golf course or Soldier Field and those activities. The way our contracts are established is they manage these assets for us. We establish an operating budget, and we're the ones who fund that operating budget.
And your belief that this new firm can operate it for less than the incumbent firm is based on their volume, their history, the due diligence
Based
you've
on
done
their
with other
experience,
people?
their history, due diligence, as well as the budget that they presented as part of their RFPs appeared to be reasonable. I did not see any budgets that were put in the RFP package from the incumbent, and so what their costs are to operate the rinks. So,
I have a question, if I may. Is there a reason why we don't ask for a guarantee?
I don't have any experience on that.
Contract strategy. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We could. It's our level of enforceability on it.
Chair, could I ask a question?
Oh, and Ellis finishing his response. Sure.
Trying to choose my words very carefully because we don't have a signed contract. Hamstring.
Right, no, gotcha. But maybe the question would be a recommendation to consider that in this instance.
One thing I want to ask, if either one of you have an answer, is quickly. I've already stated for the record that outdoor ice rinks, let's face it, are very costly to operate. And unlike most things we do, the revenue never catches up. We don't operate budget neutral on these. That said, does anybody have a quick answer to how much we have reduced over the years our operating expenses in managing our outdoor rinks? Because it's been, my understanding, it's been a significant reduction in the past couple of years.
And I'll turn that over to Lonzo. He has the history. I do not.
It's roughly about $400,000. So literally, even with the incumbent, we have reduced it roughly about $400,000.
$400,000 above what we were paying.
$400,000 below what we were paying. To your point, we were.
Same.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were paying roughly $1.2 million then, or
Correct.
$1.3 million to manage the ice rinks before.
So I think that's admirable, but I feel a little nervous about X the unknown. The people who've been managing it and who brought the costs down who have a realistic perspective, and you can always project, but you don't know.
You don't. It's not unusual, like Steve was saying earlier on our operating contracts. There is some unknown in almost every negotiation, and I'll be frank. A lawyer can cover just about every liability in a contract known to man, but then you pay for it, and sometimes you have to take a little bit of risk on our end to get maybe better pricing. I rely on them to manage it tightly. The outdoor rinks are roughly open 5 months a year. There's only 6 of them. I don't think it's that hard for them to manage this new vendor appropriately. And again, getting back to my cost overruns, that was the incumbent's pricing that we had to get reduced significantly the last couple of years from what we were paying just a few years ago.
Okay. Commissioner Shalaby?
If I may, the pricing, Superintendent, is what I had in mind. The difference, did you look at, was it because that was the only person we had, the incumbent, or the price difference, I think, is what alarms some of us in terms of going with the new vendor. Did you look at that and make a decision based on what you saw?
Yes, and I think, once again, as part of this RFP process or IFP process, is that rink management also came in with various ideas on marketing, how to drive more people to the ice rinks, whether it was introducing sled hockey, going to libraries and provide incentives for people to come out and skate. If you've read X number of books, you get a discount. We've also talked a little bit about trying to minimize our net loss on our ice rinks by potentially having an admission fee, and ideas were provided as part of their response on ideas on how to generate revenues, whether it was from advertising on the boards, naming rights for the ice rink itself, marketing activities where you can have family night on a night where it's not a very popular night. For $9 or $10, you can have the whole family come in and for skate rental and skate on the ice rink. So they came up with many different ideas, and to Commissioner Koldyke's point, the revenue ideas for the advertising we did not take into account in comparison between the two bids.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Just a quick point of order. Commissioner Salgado's recommendation of sound but came out of committee, and so I'm going to bring it in committee, which is for the contract negotiating team to consider a guarantee provision in the contract. And I think that's a formal request for evaluation from the committee. With that, I move to accept the authorization proposal.
Can I add one more thing that I'd request? Since we are about to take a vote on something that, again, the management fee is known, the operating isn't, but we are trusting that management has scrubbed these numbers and believe that they're deliverable. Will you guys commit to, whatever it is next summer after the winter season, to come back and report to us as to whether we were right or not, and when you have hard numbers that you can report? Sure. Okay.
So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. If there is no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 3 from the Director of Purchasing, authorization to participate in a contract for the supply and delivery of maintenance, repair, and operating supplies.
President Traubert, Commissioners, General Superintendent, and CEO, good morning. My name is Rafi Sarafi, and I'm the Director of Purchasing. I'm here today to recommend that pursuant to Chapter 11, Section D7 Sub A of the Code of the Chicago Park District, in order to be entered authorizing the General Superintendent and CEO or his designee to participate in W.W. Granger's contract with the National Joint Powers Alliance for the supply and delivery of maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. No work may commence and no payment shall be made prior to the execution of a written agreement. The National Joint Powers Alliance, or the NJPA, was created by Minnesota State Statute in 1978 and is a cooperative purchasing public agency that makes its contracts available to its nationwide members, such as cities, counties, and government agencies, including the Chicago Park District. All of the NJPA's contracts are publicly advertised, competitively bid, and approved by their 8-member board, all of whom are public officials. In the fall of 2009, the NJPA publicly advertised an invitation for bid for the supply and delivery of maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. The bid period was for 1 month, and W.W. Granger was the awardee. Through cooperative purchasing, the Chicago Park District regularly participates in contracts with public agencies and entities whose economies are larger, including the City of Chicago. This gives the CPD the ability to gain economy of scale pricing while expediting the purchasing process. The CPD would gain the same benefits with participation in Granger's contract with the NJPA. Though the CPD has contracts in place for maintenance, repair, and operating supplies, they're not inclusive of the entire need. Accordingly, Granger's contract with the NJPA would be used when the maintenance, repair, and operating supply is not available on an active CPD contract. Additionally, the CPD has not participated in a national cooperative purchasing contract, and the Department of Purchasing would like to participate in this contract as a trial program. Therefore, the Chicago Park District would like to take advantage of the NJPA's larger buying power and economy of scale pricing by participating in Granger's contract for maintenance, repair, and operating supplies with the NJPA. Are there any questions?
The city, you said the city does it?
No, the Board of Education does, and PACE does, and so far, from what we understand, they're pleased with the way the contracts are working, and they are achieving,
And part of your due
savings.
diligence is
Yes.
to talk to your counterparts. and understand.
Absolutely.
Are there further questions or concerns?
So moved.
Second?
If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
That concludes the Committee on Administration. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor signify aye.
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 Motion is carried. The Committee on Administration is now adjourned.
On this day, Wednesday, September 11, 2013, at 10:55 a.m., a meeting of the Committee of Capital Improvements of the Board of Commissioners, Chicago Park District, is being held in the 8th floor boardroom, the Administration Building, located at 541 North Fairbanks. Will the Secretary please take a roll call?
Chair Commissioner Koldyke,
Here.
Vice Chair Commissioner Salgado,
Here.
Commissioner Shalaby,
Here.
Commissioner Lavelle,
Here.
President Trobert.
Here.
Quorum is present. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Allen, General Superintendent Michael Kelly, and General Counsel David Donnersberger are also in attendance.
Meeting will come to order. Item 1 from the Director of Planning and Construction and the First Deputy General Counsel, authority to accept the transfer of property located at 4658 North Virginia Avenue from the Chicago Transit Authority for the expansion of Jacob Park. Tim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Superintendent Tim King, Legal Counsel. The next item for your consideration is consistent with the Mayor's Riverfront Recreational Accessibility Initiative and the Superintendent's initiative to acquire green space in densely populated areas. It's an opportunity here to acquire 0.26 acres adjacent to an existing play lot in the 40th Ward on the far north side of the city. This is a densely populated area. The cost of this property via purchase from the CTA is far below market value. Negotiations have been going on since 2007, if you can believe that. Started under Alderman Schulter when this is in the 47th Ward, and then subsequently picked up by Alderman Amaya Pawar, and then finally, after the remap, has been championed by Alderman Pat O'Connor. At all times, it's been supported by the community surrounding the area. And at first, one of the, the reason we didn't jump on the acquisition at first was prior to the market crash of 2008, the appraised value was $1.1 million. And then there was, we played a little hardball with our sister agency and got them down on a subsequent appraisal to about $700,000, which we thought was still, far in excess of what we should be paying for 0.26 acres, albeit it is riverfront property. And then finally, we had a third appraisal done, and that came in at about $100,000, which is where we're at today. So, it's a favorable story for the Park District. We stood fast, and we're getting a good deal here. A phase 1 has been conducted, which is a phase 1 preliminary environmental test, and the results have been provided. And it is to establish the existence of potential environmental risk and or liability. None exists. This phase 1 has been thoroughly reviewed by our in-house engineers, and a full report has been issued. We are going to grant the CTA a easement for maintenance purposes, and as you'll see from the overhead there, the brown line is on the southern portion of the property. So from time to time, the CTA will come out and need to, provide service for that. And the long-term plans for the property, since it's adjacent to a well-used play lot, is to grade and green the property, and we hope to get some financial assistance from Alderman O'Connor, which he has pledged. And again, this enjoys strong support from the community and Friends of the Park.
Any discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve.
Second.
Could the,
I will certainly will. Chair Commissioner Kodak,
aye.
Vice Chair Commissioner Salgado,
Aye.
Commissioner Shalaby,
Aye.
Commissioner Lavelle,
Aye.
President Trobert.
Aye.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 2 from the Director of Planning and Construction, authorization to enter into a contract for Park number 574 development. Rob?
Thank you and good morning. Rob Raymond, Director of Planning and Construction. It's recommended that the General Superintendent and CEO or his designee enter into contract with Albray Construction Company for development of Park 574. This park is located at 172 South Rockwell on the near west side in Ward 2. This is a photo of the existing site. But quickly, construction is to be substantially completed by August 29, 2014. The contract amount is not to exceed $2,200,400. This was the lowest of 3 bids. This job was actually bid twice. The previous bid came in at 3.1, which was over our budget, so we went back in and did some scope adjustments and value engineering to get the job within budget. And this is a concept plan. It shows the overall plan. It's got a central playground feature, and I'll give you a little more detail on that. And then there's a pathway loop that goes around the entire park. There's a lot of topography on the site. We're keeping all the environmental abatement initiatives with soil on site with 3-foot caps, and then sculpting the site. This playground will actually be on a graded hill, which is a really interesting way to do a playground. We did that at 31st Street Harbor, and it turned out great. So this was another opportunity for us to do that. And then this loop around the park is a fitness pathway with adult fitness equipment. This shows a blow-up of the playground area. And what you'll see in this area is we have some unusual equipment, a large spinner, some embankment slides, multi-use swings instead of standard swings. And then there's actually a zip line in this one where you're going from one mulch area to another past some really interesting park features. And then
How far off the ground do you think that kid is?
I think in that one he's probably like 3 feet off the ground. The platforms aren't terribly high. And then of course we have some adult fitness equipment, just for community use. Again, this park will develop 2.27 acres on a vacant site adjacent to Chicago Housing Authority's Rockwell Gardens. It'll be an outdoor active recreation park on Chicago's near west side that has a growing residential population. The new park was part of a land exchange with the CHA that was previously approved by the board on August 13, 2008. Before transfer, West Adams Street was legally vacated between South Rockwell Street on the north and South Maplewood Street on the south, creating this contiguous footprint for the park development. The minority participation on the contract is 25%, and there's 5% women-owned participation, and this project is paid for entirely with OSIF funds, or open space impact fees.
Out of curiosity, I guess it's to the east, what's this empty land there? What is that?
To the east. There's yeah, there are some buildings to the east. I think there's a couple of residential towers, and then to the northeast there is a military academy high school.
The Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Okay, great, thanks.
Rob, could you give us just a minute on OSIF fees?
Sure. Open space impact fees, they're fees that are assessed by the city when development comes in and takes over open space and increases the amount of residential use in an area. And so those fees are assessed against the development and then given back for open space development. In this case, it was for acquisition, road removal, and now development of this park space to help drive a really livable environment for the new CHA housing that's coming into the area.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
No objection will apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 3 from the Director of Planning and Construction, authorization to enter into a contract for Park number 569 redevelopment. Rob?
Thank you. It's recommended that an order be entered authorizing the general superintendent or his designee to enter into a contract with Klaus Brothers Incorporated for the redevelopment of Park 569 into a dog-friendly area. This park is located at 1358 West Monroe. It's a 0.4 acre site in the 27th Ward near West Side. This is a shot of the site. It's just north of the existing Skinner Park, north of Monroe. And before I go into the plan, I just want to say that this construction should be substantially complete within 90 days of notice of issuance of notice to proceed. The contractor's amount is not to exceed $856,250. This was the lowest of 4 bids. There's 32.73% minority business participation and 6.21% women-owned participation. The work includes environmental remediation, enrollment into the Illinois SRP, or Site Remediation Program, excavation and grading, installation of clean fill with a 3-foot engineered barrier, new underground utilities and drainage, new artificial turf dog run area for large and small dogs, new drinking fountain for patrons and for dogs, new colored concrete walkways and curbs, new lighting, new site furnishings, and 2 shade structures. Also, there's fencing and landscape improvements. This is funded with $250,000 in OSIF fees and $465,000 in TIF. There were, in the early planning stages, a couple of community meetings just to determine the site and the use of the site. More recently, there were 2 community meetings, and then a third follow-up with the Skinner Park Advisory Council and the West Loop Community Organization, along with Alderman Burnett, to do some final changes to the plan that brought just a few additional improvements. One was the additional shade structure. One was changing from asphalt to colored concrete. And then some fencing upgrades to go with an Omega fence, which is a slightly upgraded fence from the typical chain link.
And Commissioners, just for the record again, this project is supported by Alderman Burnett, politically and financially, obviously. The other issue I want to just raise is the Skinner Park Advisory Council may be here at 4 o'clock today. They don't support artificial turf being used in the dog park. They would rather it be grass. We can't go with grass for obvious reasons. It'll be gone within months, and it'll turn into a mud pit.
Do the Skinner Park Advisory Council, do they support the use of this land for a dog park?
They do.
Yes.
They just want natural turf, which won't be sustainable.
Correct.
Okay. I have a question about the open space impact fees.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a purposeful and deliberate process for thinking about how this money would be used, or does it just sort of show up periodically as a result of things that City Hall is doing?
Yeah, well, it is driven by development, so the money goes to the area where the open space impact fees are generated, and then there's a community process that really happens related to. It starts at the city's Department of Planning and Development, or DHAD currently. And they're working with aldermen, local communities, to understand what the requests are. Then we come in, once we know that there's land available, we start a community process and then really start to work through those things. So the money is driven to a specific area based on development, and then the scope is driven by aldermanic and community process.
So we come in at the end.
We work with the city's DHAD all the time, so we see these coming from a while away, and we're able to weigh in and talk about the needs of the community based on our knowledge as well.
All right.
And we're working closely with DHEAD and the mayor's office to. Mark Heller, probably the most, has been in asking us to retool the formula so parks are more of a beneficiary of the funds. There's another issue that we're working with the city on, and it's the decision that open space impact fees are only available for new parkland development, and that's a big hurdle for us. Think of areas like Logan Square, Lincoln Park, anywhere where there's high density but very little parkland. It's very difficult for us to acquire new land. Those impact fees, though, often there's millions, would go a long way towards rehabilitating, reinvesting in the existing parkland. That's another effort we're working with the city on.
Is that a city ordinance? Is it a state law?
Where's Tim King? We've been researching this quite a bit.
It's actually neither. It's a policy, administrative policy applied by the city as a part of a zoning application to increase density in a particular area.
So if the administration can be convinced of our perspective on this, this could be changed.
That is correct. And we're in the process of trying to, draft a, kind of white paper that the superintendent can present to make our case.
I've been trying since 2001.
But wouldn't the aldermen of these areas that we're speaking of, where they have parks that are in need, be in favor of seeing this happen? And wouldn't they be good advocates for this change?
Yes.
Yes.
Perhaps.
And some have indicated their support. Many have.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman, regarding the artificial turf. The cost and the maintenance, how is that going to work, and how would that differ from natural turf as far as what they're seeking?
Natural turf really won't last for long, so we would end up like mulching in areas, which isn't the intent of like the design. So we know that they actually have canine artificial turf. It's made for this purpose, so it's meant to be durable, low maintenance, and it's it drains well. It's easier to clean, and because the local advisory councils, the dog-friendly area advisory councils, they maintain it for us. We provide water hookups, a way for them to clean up, a way where to keep bags and we of course then just basically empty garbage. So when we move forward with these plans, there's a whole process that we deal with the advisory councils related to maintenance, and we need to get that commitment up front before we're comfortable moving ahead with these things.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob, one last quick question on OSA fees. So inherent in your explanation of how they're used, it would mean that advantaged communities that are more likely to get development would then be advantaged by the OSA fees because they have to be used in those areas. Is that question ever asked of park poor areas and areas that just are disadvantaged and not being developed? Is there any way to get those funds to those areas?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because it is driven by where development wants to go, and that's where CHA steps in, because they're shepherding forward affordable housing in areas of the city that need development. They're the ones helping to drive where OSA fees are going. So in this case, there's a DFA area near Skinner Park, but the previous board item was at Rockwell Gardens, where it wouldn't necessarily naturally be where you'd see a lot of development striving to happen without the involvement of CHA, and again, DHEAD helping to drive development plans for the city.
So are these fees on what projects? How is it decided which projects get assessed this fee and which projects don't, or is it just universally applied for all development projects?
It's universally applied to my knowledge, and it's just based on a formula that's driven by like an FAR, a floor area ratio, that determines how much open space needs there are for that community. So when open space is taken over, this is an obligation by that development to replace it with something more high quality and usable for the residents.
It's tied to residential.
Yes.
So if you've got big manufacturer moving in to the south side or the west side or the southwest side, that's not part of the
It's
deal.
already zoned residential, so it's
Right.
not taking up
Gotcha.
exactly residential space.
Theoretically, that would be TIF. Then a lot of times that would then go into a TIF district, and then that would help us on
on the TIF side of things, so you'd be able to draw from there.
Okay.
Is there a sorry?
I just have a question. Is there a strategic plan for where we're putting all these dog parks? Because we had a last month that came up as well. So is it just sort of hit or miss? Because, I'm a dog owner.
Mhm.
I'll just play devil's advocate. It seems a little bit odd to be putting this kind of resource into a park for dogs that's not mixed use, especially when there seems to be kind of a disconnect around just even the technology. Like, you really can't have grass in a dog park, and
Right.
the maintenance and sanitary concerns, but we clearly need dog parks
Yeah,
in
so-
the city. So
yeah.
I'm just wondering if we've done that, so that we can also, when these requests come up, that we can kind of look at strategically where we're putting them.
Mhm.
So using the resources more for families and
Right.
children especially?
Yeah, there's a couple components to the answer to that question. We recently revamped our dog-friendly area development guidelines, so there is a substantial process. There's surveys that go out to the community, then there's actually observance of the site over a year to make sure that the park's not being used by other users in areas that are proposed. We have guidelines as to the amount of park space that could potentially be taken up within an existing park. And so the Park District isn't out there looking for ways to expand and distribute dog-friendly areas at this point. What we're doing is reacting to community requests because, our goals are really kids first, human use of park facilities. But we do understand that there's a desire for a need for dog park areas in the city. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that there's a very we're approaching them in a thoughtful way. We're also not bringing financial resources to dog-friendly areas. There are basically every dog-friendly area we've done as of late, including the really large one that was a subject, I think, of the last board meeting, Fred Henderson Park. That was also all outside funds, just like Skinner Park. So we're not using our funds to develop these areas, but we are responding to the requests of aldermen, which is all of these are also supported by aldermen and then the community using outside funds.
Any other questions?
I would move to accept.
Second.
No objection. We'll apply the last available roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
That concludes the Committee on Capital Improvements. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The Committee on Capital Improvements is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.